Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. You are awesome on this Friday, this beautiful Friday. Actually, it's not beautiful. I'm surrounded by smoke from wildfires, but what can you do? You know, you just got to swing with it. You know how I know you're awesome? It's because you're doing some self-improvement. You're here trying to figure out how you can better yourself, how you can go about your job search campaign, and how you can handle all the stuff that comes along with it. All these beautiful, wonderful things that everybody loves so much. Welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I'm Bill, and we are talking here on this live stream that I do several times a week about careers and job search. However, we're not talking about it from the sense of the theory and what you should do. We're talking about it from the sense of what actually happens in the real world, warts and all. So if you are discovering this and you're being kicked around proverbially by this, by HR and by the whole job search thing, let's talk about it. The title of today's episode is Live Job Hunt SOS, Resumes, Ghosting, Interviews, and More. And this is episode number 90 of Honest HR Nitrous. And I can't believe we've done 90 of these. It's actually been pretty cool. So this is primarily an interactive Q&A. I really don't have an agenda of what to talk about. I am simply here answering your questions. So if you are seeing my beautiful face, as always, you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of the video feed. If you have been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to get in there and let me know what's up with you, what you're wondering about, what you're struggling with, and or you just want to share, and I will try and help you out. That's the whole point. So yeah, you know, I got the question of a lifetime. The question was, Bill, what method of job search would you do for yourself? And or words to that effect. And I am going to do a video on that. I'm going to do a very long video on exactly what I would do, and what I have done before, what I would do going forward, how it all works. I'm quite excited to do that. I've never actually done that in the history of this YouTube channel. I've been doing these for 6 years, something like that. I've never actually done a video on that. So I'm going to do a video on that. It's going to be a long video. It's going to be probably covering, there's at least 7 methods of how to get a job that are quite different from each other. So I'm going to cover those. Now, a lot of that stuff is in this course. Okay. So if you are wondering what to do, how to get a job, check out that course. More on that later. Yeah, you know, let's see if we can list these while we're waiting for the first questions to roll on in. There are 10 people here. That means you, if you're seeing this, you're here. While we're waiting for people to get in the chat with questions, let's list some of the methods for how to get a job. The first method, everyone knows, I'm sure, it's applying to posted jobs with an application, usually a resume and maybe other things, cover letters, etc. This is the default method for a lot of young people, a lot of people at sort of the worker level. And this is the method that I end up having to talk about the most because that's what people are into. But the problem is it's by far the worst method of getting a job. It really is not only less effective, but it's unpleasant. How can I put it? This is where you got to deal with things in the title of this live stream today, ghosting, you know, things like that. There's fake jobs. You've got to go in and deal with ATS systems or ATS. I guess that's a tautology. You don't say ATS systems because it stands for applicant tracking system. You know, it's just very imperfect. And as we go into the future, that method is getting tougher and tougher for a lot of people. It's very competitive. You have 80% or something of all the job seekers competing for all those jobs. And those jobs, they're 20% of the jobs. So it's very competitive. And that explains a lot of the things that we see in that area. So there's that. And I've covered that to death on this channel. The second kind of method is where you get into networking. And I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of a introvert, because I'm an introvert. And I know a lot of you guys out there are introverts. Direct outreach, if you've never heard of this. There's a video linked in the description box of this live stream, right under the live stream. There's a link to one of my videos called How Successful People Get Jobs, and that shows you what that looks like. Between Google Maps and LinkedIn, you could find all the employers around you, within, say, commuting distance. You can then use LinkedIn to find all the individuals at those organizations. You target the right ones, and you send them a message, a template message. It's almost like applying for jobs, where you send out a lot of applications. This is, you send a template message. You say, hello, I'm here. Here's the problem I solve. If ever you're looking to hire someone with that, let me know. I'd love to work for you. So that's kind of the next method. Pretty basic, but yet that's a huge step for a lot of people. A lot of people aren't aware that even exists. And when you finally learn about it, it's like you're taking your first steps into a larger world. There's another method where you're relying on informational interviews, where you do almost the same thing, except instead of sending people a message saying, hire me, you send them a message saying, I'd very much like to speak with you, and you try and do face-to-face informational interviews. That requires people to know what an informational interview is. It's not a job interview. You're not asking for a job. You're just asking for information. It's not about a job. You don't mention jobs. The idea is to build rapport with the person, see if you guys get along, see if it clicks, right? And then the idea is that you then have a delayed pitch. So if you have an informational interview with somebody and it works well for both of you, especially for you, you can go back to the person. You could say, listen, like a week or two later, listen, I've been thinking about what you said, and I'd very much like to pursue any opportunities if you guys are looking for someone who can do that. So you turn it into a, essentially a networking job thing. So that's like a third method. While I'm waiting for people to get in the chat, I'll just keep going. What else is there? There's a whole ton of stuff. There's job fairs. Now, traditionally, I would lump job fairs and events into one kind of method, but they're actually two different discrete things, because job fairs are not really a homespun networking event where you can sort of connect with people and sow the seeds of employment opportunities. It's actually a very controlled, very planned thing that's engineered for the purpose of doing this. So as a result, you are wandering around, you're looking at representatives of the different employers, and you have the opportunity to engage them in conversation, exchange business cards, this kind of thing. So you're not really dealing with people that are very high up in the employers, you're dealing with their representatives. Essentially some kind of salesperson for all intent and purposes. So that's job fairs. Good for people that are just starting out, young people, students, that kind of thing. Networking events, it gets much more sophisticated. Finding out what events are happening in your industry around you. If you work in the plumbing industry, finding out what events are happening in the plumbing industry in your location, say your hometown, in the next 3 months. You can easily do this. You could show up at the events, you can meet all the players, right? And knowing how to have basic conversations with people, you can create a lot of networking opportunities for yourself, right? A lot of job opportunities for yourself, rather. Okay, so I would break those out into two things, actually. Job fairs are one thing, networking events are another. And they're different because networking events, you're outside the system, whereas job fairs, you're very much in the HR system, and that's something you want to kind of get away from if you can at all help it. The next method is something called growth opportunities. That's where you discover economic, through the economic department of the local municipal government or provincial state government, what employers are coming to town, what employers are expanding, what employers are setting up shop in your hometown, and reaching out through the people that are publicizing this to find the person that's driving that expansion at that organization, reaching out to them, basically saying, I'm offering myself as a guide. You need someone here on location, you're expanding in here, you want someone that can help you out with that, let me know, I'd love to work with you. And that can lead to a lot of opportunities there, and I've done that kind of thing before. So I would lump that into the term growth opportunities. I don't know if it has an official name or not. Okay, but that's one thing. Another one is applying in person, right? I've covered that on this channel quite a bit before too, where you walk through the front door of the organization. Usually you get to a reception desk, you talk to a receptionist, and the idea is you ask to see the hiring manager for whatever department, right? Now, the answer is usually no. So you say, okay, no problem. And then you leave your resume or cover letter, whatever, usually just a resume. And you say, if I leave this, well, can you make sure that that person gets it, right? And you get their name. And then the idea is you follow up later, and this is your reason for following up, right? You say, hello, I'm just following up to see if you received my envelope or my letter I left at the front desk for you. And then you basically make your pitch to them over the phone. You know, the same thing that you'd have said in a direct outreach message. Do it that way. And that allows you to get, well, there's a lot of advantages to doing it, put it that way. Volunteering is another one. Volunteering works a bit different. It's tied to the events, method, right? Where basically you can't just volunteer for anything. Okay. Usually there are a lot of laws and employment standards that mean that you can only volunteer officially for things like charitable organizations. So the idea is that you can use volunteering as a way to sort of like get access, to different organizations if they have involvement in charitable organizations, this kind of thing, or you actually want to try and get into the nonprofit, like charitable organization type thing if that's what you're going for. But that's actually a more interesting, more sophisticated method. That's probably the most exotic of all these methods. Right? Anyway, I could go on. We got some questions. Brian L. is here. Hello, Brian. Brian says, hi, Bill. My company has an opening and already found an internal candidate. However, it still posts online, so public can apply too. Why are they wasting other candidates' time? There could be a variety of reasons driving that. If it's a government organization or an organization that has been funded in part by the government, then a lot of times you will see this. It's a standard thing. Sometimes it's not necessarily funded by the government, but it might be an immigration type thing. For example, if you are posting the job and you want to hire someone that's not a citizen, you have to sometimes jump through some hoops and say, like, you have to prove that person, you have to prove that you looked, you canvassed the job locally and you looked at citizens, or you have to make a case that why are you hiring someone who isn't a citizen when a citizen is skilled and able to do this job, right? So there are a lot of stuff like that. I'm not an expert on all the rules, and they vary by country and region, but there's a lot of employment standards and labor laws that tie employers' hands with this stuff, at least with the cosmetic stuff. They have to be seen to be looking in different places for certain things. It still is up to them who they hire, but they have to at least go through the motions. They can't just do it all behind closed doors if it's something that the government is trying to dissuade them from doing, like hiring a foreign national instead of, a citizen, something like that. So you get this stuff just kind of in the background. It's more like because of labor laws. From a more practical sense, there are some times when there's conventional wisdom on whether you hire an internal candidate or an external candidate. All things being equal, there are advantages to hiring internal candidates. One is that the person you're getting is more of a known quantity, right? You've observed them. They've been with your firm for a while, so they're tried and true. You're not getting a psychopath or a criminal or, someone who's crazy or untrustworthy. You're not getting some kind of kleptomaniac. You know what I mean? Like you vetted the person, okay? The disadvantages of the internal candidate, there's two major disadvantages. Number one is that you fill a position, but you create another vacancy because you've moved someone from a role into another role. So the vacancy has moved around. You haven't actually filled anything, right? Secondly, Secondly, the disadvantage is if you want change, then you get an external candidate. So if things are going really well and you just want the status quo, then the conventional wisdom is you get an internal candidate. If you can improve, things are not going great, things could be better. You want someone with new ideas, new methods, new solutions. You bring in an external candidate. That's the general convention on that stuff. Brian says this is a Fortune 100 company, just to give context. Yeah, so it'll be very formal, and it'll be governed by a lot of employment standards and labor laws. They'll be dotting their I's and crossing their T's. So you see a lot of this stuff. I mean, I don't know what country you're in, but you generally see a lot of that kind of stuff when you're dealing with large organizations, because they're following the letter of the law to the T, right? So that's kind of how that works. And by the way, wasting candidates' time, don't use that expression in job search, okay? Because I'm not trying to beat up on you. I get where you're coming from, but the thing is, it's like salespeople complaining that their time is being wasted. It's ridiculous, because the very nature of sales is that you are going to be pursuing all kinds of leads, most of which will not work out. It's a numbers game. Even if you had a 5% success rate for some things, that would be fantastic. That would more than justify your presence. It would make money, right? Easily, hands down. You know what I'm saying? So a salesperson that complains about their time being wasted, this resulted in something that didn't result directly in a sale. That's the very nature of your job, okay? Now, I hate to break this to you, but job search is the sales process. You're selling yourself. You're trying to persuade people, you could hire any one of any number of people. You should hire me and forget them, right? You should choose me. I'm trying to persuade you. I'm trying to sell you on hiring me. So you're in hell. This is the sales process, right? And that's why if you think about it in terms of your time being wasted, you're not going to get very far, because by definition, most of the things you're doing, most of the leads you're following and opportunities you're pursuing, they have a greater than 50% chance of not working out, right? So if you think of it in terms of, well, that didn't directly pay off, therefore I shouldn't do it, that's going to lead to failure. Okay, it's a numbers game. Okay, and I'm not beating up on you. I'm just explaining. People who are not in sales, when they do job search, they sometimes have the wrong attitude. Okay, I'm not saying you should want to waste your time, but you should realize that by definition, all the leads you're pursuing, they're far more likely not to work out. You have to accept that as just part of this process, right? And the idea is it's driven by statistics, right? If you have a 5% chance of winning any lead that you pursue and a 95% chance of it failing, it doesn't mean that you should give up on the leads, because if you keep pursuing leads that have that success rate, you will eventually, within a short amount of time, lead to a win, a bite. Okay, so that's how you get to the win, is by pursuing these leads, right? LB says, I missed the start. Is this every Friday at 2 p.m.? Yeah, ironically, it is every Friday at 2 p.m., but I am taking at least a week off starting on Tuesday. So not for the next week. It was like every Friday this year and last year, except for next week. So you got to love the timing there. I got a real good feeling about you, LB. This is your moment. But yeah, I've done a lot of these. I do 6 live streams a week, and so I'm just taking a break for a week or two. Michael says, should I call to the recruiter after receiving just a raw reply that another candidate has been chosen in order to find out what could be improved? I'm Slovak, but many companies here put U.S. standards, whatever that means. Okay, well, listen. This is what I'd recommend. Most people, they're just going to not respond. I mean, why respond? If they've told you that they are going with somebody else, technically, from an efficiency point of view, there's probably no reason for you to put more work into this lead, right? Because they've just basically told you that they're going with someone else, right? Now, on a personal level, if let's say you've been dealing with these people for a while and you've gotten to know them a little bit, there's been an interaction back and forth there. The courteous professional thing to do might be to say, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me know that. Best of luck, just as a professional courteous thing. But from an efficiency point of view, you just drop it right there and you instead focus your time, effort, and energy on pursuing new leads that have a chance of working out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So that's what I would say about that. I mean, this is the exact behavior that recruiters and other people in the hiring game, the hiring industry or function, what they do. Like, that's why ghosting is a thing, right? As soon as they've decided, well, you're not our lead candidate or you've dropped out of the running, we don't lift a finger to deal with you. We don't put any more energy into communicating with you whatsoever. We drop off the face of the planet. We don't even tell you that, I'm sorry, we're going with someone else, right? So that's the behavior we typically expect from recruiters and hiring managers. Therefore, I wouldn't judge you if you adopted exactly the same policy when dealing with them. Brian L. says, thank you, Bill. Your answer always covered many grounds and solid. Well, thank you, Brian. It's nice to get that feedback, and I appreciate it. LB says, oh, snap, no worries. Oh, I will watch old live streams. Yeah, I'll be back. I haven't even really formalized this. It's just sort of my intention to take a week off, possibly 2 weeks, seeing how it's going. Now, listen, I am back on Monday for sure. Basically, like whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world, what time is it going to be in half an hour? I'm in North America, Central Time. It's going to be 2 p.m. for me in like half an hour. That's the time I will be back on Monday. So if you want to join me then, you have the opportunity to ask questions and all this. And I am partnering with another YouTuber. We're doing a live stream together where we answer everybody's questions. It's Abby from the channel Life Work Balance. She's a professional recruiter. She can give you her perspective as a professional recruiter. And I'm an ex-CEO. I've been a hiring manager, and I just know business, so I can tell you what's going on the other side of businesses and things like this. So I give you my perspective also on those streams. So we'll be doing that on Monday for sure. Peter says, thank you, Bill. I'm in the final stages of the offer now. Thanks for your advice. You're absolutely welcome, Peter. Best of luck. You're awesome. I hope it works out, and I hope that you really come out on top. It's really exciting. And it's also kind of cool taking these new sort of directions in life. Hopefully it'll lead to good things. You'll make all kinds of friends and all kinds of connections. So best of luck. Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier, and I am definitely going to do that long video on someone asked me the question, what would I do to get a job? And no one's ever asked me that on this channel in 6 years. So I'm going to do that video. That's going to be cool. It's going to be some higher level stuff that most people can easily do. You could pursue these methods if you wanted to. The thing that I wish for a lot of people is to just get out of the mentality that the only way to get a job is to apply with an application to posted jobs, right? That's certainly not the best method to get a job. It's one of the worst. Secondly, it is getting worse as we go into the future. Now that they're putting AI into ATS systems and they're experimenting with all kinds of weird new hiring techniques that are enabled by technology. Like, for example, you recording videos of yourself answering job interview questions on a website. That's how they hire, doing things like that. They're more dehumanizing. We're running into increasing problems with fake jobs. Ghosting is, it's here to stay. It wasn't always the case. It wasn't always the standard thing that people would ghost you. But that's definitely come in, and it's here to stay, and it's pretty much the norm now. So there's a lot of things that are just making job postings even less attractive than they were before. You know what I mean? So therefore, it's pushing people more to the other methods, right? Like networking related stuff, right? And the reality is that if you're an introvert like me, you should embrace some of these things, because you don't have to be a raging extrovert to do networking. Far from it. Introverts can be very effective at networking. So anyway, I'm trying to evangelize that stuff on my channel, and I'm looking forward to doing a long video where I go into this is what I would do specifically. So hopefully that will be useful for some people out there, and you may realize just how many other things you can do other than applying to posted jobs on the internet, things that are much more promising. I'm waiting for the next person to send me a question, and while I'm waiting, let's do something just for the sheer hell of this. Let's do something. Here, I'll share my screen. Okay, let's see if I can pull this up. Oh, this is not my identity. Okay, well, whatever. We'll do this anyway. Okay, so here, let's see. Okay. What is the percentage of jobs that are posted publicly online? Here, I'll make this bigger so you guys can see. Oops. Here we go. Okay, what is the percentage of jobs that are posted publicly online? You guys can see that? Okay. The percentage of jobs that are posted publicly online vary by industry, but research and surveys consistently estimate that only about 15 to 30% of all available jobs are posted publicly online. Did you know this? A lot of people don't. A lot of young people and people just starting out that haven't done a lot of job search in their lives don't know this, okay? So the public job market versus the hidden job market, only about 20% of jobs, usually it is, okay? 70 to 80% of jobs are on the hidden job market. They are filled through internal hires, referrals, and networking. This is you. Every single one of you. You can be this person, right? Recruiters or headhunters, not as much. Social media connections, yes. Direct outreach by candidates, yes, that's you. For example, the video that I posted in the description box of this live stream. So under this live stream, in the description, I've put links to some of my videos that are free on my channel, right? One of them is called Hidden Job Market, that talks about this, because there's some people that deny that this exists. It's okay, open your eyes. And there's another video called How Successful People Get Jobs that show you how to do this, direct outreach. Okay, so this thing right here. Very easy to do, really. All you got to do is work, on LinkedIn, and yeah, basically that's it. You have to clean up your LinkedIn profile, make sure it's professional, and then learn how LinkedIn works. And, this could be you. Okay, so it goes into a bunch of things. Why jobs aren't posted. I mean, let me ask you something. If you need someone to help you do something, would you prefer to hire a stranger? Or would you prefer to hire someone like a friend or a family member, right? Well, the answer is probably a friend or a family member. You want someone you can trust, someone who's a known quantity. They're not crazy. They're not criminal or untrustworthy. You also know that you somewhat get along, right? You can interoperate with them, right? The problem is when you hire a stranger, which is what posting a job publicly is. The problem with that is that it's like rolling the dice. You don't know who you're getting. Oh, sure, they may give a good interview, but you really don't know who that person is, right? It could all be an act, right? So anyway, there's a lot to job search. I would encourage a lot of people that are kind of new to this to learn about it. You can go to ChatGPT. You could just it's really not that hard to uncover how this stuff works. There's so much more than simply applying to posted jobs. And I'm trying to encourage people to learn about this because people are not being told this in school. And I think that that's the real crime here. Anyway, let's get back to it. LB says, I've been messaging people at a company I want to work at. To my surprise, he responded nicely, but I'm having trouble getting him to do a call. How would you go about messaging someone like that? Well, you see, unfortunately, it's going to require you to understand certain things about people that maybe we have a difference of opinion on. You see, one of the principles here is that sort of asking people for a job, that doesn't usually produce great results, ironically, right? The second thing is that, the people that can help you are at least one level above you, okay? Like for someone to give you a job, if you're here, they would be here, right? Or they would be here, or here, or here, or here, or here, right? Those are the people that have the power to hire you on the spot, okay? And sometimes it's above what they do, so all they say is, look into this person, and then somebody else hires you on their instructions or recommendation, right? So talking to people at your level, there's really limited value in doing that. You have to go up. And this is where I first encounter resistance, because a lot of people, I did a video on this like a week ago. A lot of people feel like, oh, who am I to talk to somebody above me? And my thing is, well, who do you have to be? I mean, they're the ones that can actually help you, So you have to understand that. You know what I mean? So just reaching out to someone and say, hey, give me a job or put in a good word for me. It's like that's of limited value. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. Occasionally that works, but the general rule is that that's not the best approach, right? Nobody is going to be your agent and get you hired. They have no motivation to do that. You know what I mean? So the way you do it is you go to the person that's has the power to hire you, at least one level up, okay? And then, there's a couple of different things you could possibly do there. But a lot of it is not about persuasion in the sense that you're trying to convince them to hire you. The idea is that you're going to people where you don't know what their situation is. Maybe they're hiring, maybe they're not. Odds are is that they're not, right? At any given time, people usually aren't hiring, right? That's far more likely. Something like maybe 95% of the time, any random manager in an organization is not hiring, right? But 5% of the time, people are hiring. They just happen to be hiring. Now, if you contact them at that moment and you say something along the lines of, hello, I'm fully qualified in this. I solve this problem. I'm really easy to work with. If ever you're looking for someone like that, please let me know because I'd love to work for you, right? Now, 95% of the time, if people are not hiring, they're going to ignore that because, they don't need that right now. But if they are hiring and that message finds them, they're going to respond. They're going to be, hey, let's get together because, there might be some potential here, right? If you work out as a candidate, that saves them a ton of work. They don't have to keep searching. They don't have to post the job publicly. You know what I mean? They don't have to sit in rounds and rounds of job interviews because you just fell right in their lap, right? So there's principles like this happening, okay? So I don't know if that helps, but I mean, you're saying how would I go about messaging someone like that? Who is the person? It sounds like you're talking to a peer, right? And if you are talking to a peer, the only thing I would do is just say, first of all, you're asking for information back. You're saying like, are they hiring? Secondly, you're sending information the other way, saying, can you put in, if they are hiring, can you put in a good word for me? Shall I give you my resume and you could pass it on? Or can you give me the contact information of the decision maker, the hiring manager, and then I will contact them directly, right? There's a couple of things you could get. I would favor the latter approach, okay? Can you give me the information for your boss who is the hiring manager, and then I will contact them? And if I do this, I'm going to mention the fact that I know you, if that's okay, just full disclosure. I'm going to mention that we've worked together or I know you in this context, Okay, so something along those lines is what I would probably do if I were in your situation. Razor Sharp Money Puck says, interviewed for a job that sounded more entry level the other day. Would they have scraped my application if the salary asked in the application was too high? Probably not, but everything happens some of the time. The reason for asking those questions is to filter people out, right? That's why if you're filling in an application online and it pops up with the question, what are your salary expectations, right? The reason why they're doing that is because if you answer unfavorably, it stops your application right there. Like it just goes into a void. It doesn't actually get to the next stage of processing, which might be being looked at by a human or something, right? That's the reason they ask those there. So the assumption is that if you give the wrong answer, not what they're wanting, that would be fatal. It would be eliminated, right? So that's what normally you could expect, but I mean, there's exceptions to everything. Wellen says, so I really need a LinkedIn account. I'm not the social media type. You don't need anything. You don't need to be on LinkedIn. If you are, you can use it to find a ton of job opportunities. But when I say that, I'm not talking about the way that a lot of people hear that. I don't mean connecting to recruiters. I don't mean applying for jobs on LinkedIn. Absolutely not. I would run as far away from that as possible. LinkedIn is a great resource to be able to connect with people that can help you, right? Now, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. It's a tool. You can use the tool or you cannot. Now, if you want to see an example of how it can be used properly, okay, I've done a video that's linked to in the description box. If you are interested enough to check this out, it's there. It's called How Successful People Get Jobs. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm doing a demonstration. You can see my desktop as I go through this stuff and show you how you can do direct outreach using Google Maps and LinkedIn. Okay, so you can see what that can look like. Okay, so if you're interested enough to pursue it any further, you could check that out, okay? But you absolutely don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I don't do anything I don't want to do when it comes to this. I don't apply for posted jobs. I haven't for like about 2 decades. So, you know what I mean? Because it's dehumanizing. It's usually doomed to failure, and the odds of success are very small. LB says, the person I messaged is above me, but I only said I want to chat and learn. I never mentioned a job, but he said we're not hiring right now, but he can answer any questions I have. Okay, so it's up to you. If you want to pursue it, it's going to be essentially an informational interview. Okay, so you go down there, and if you're doing an informational interview, the way I've done hundreds of informational interviews is, and usually I've done them with CEOs and other C-level executives or board members, is I basically go down there and I say the magic words for me, which are, I'd very much like to get your expert opinion on this industry, where it's going, and what's the way forward, what are the challenges going to be, right? I want to know your opinion on essentially your job, right? How it should be done, how it's going to change, right? If someone wanted to do your job or your type of job very well, in your opinion, what would they do, right? that type of thing, right? And people love being asked their opinion, right? Because it's very flattering. Here you have somebody that wants to know what you think, and they are genuinely interested to hear what you have to say. It's very flattering. Usually you ask one or two of those questions, and they do all the rest of the talking, right? And by the end of it, they love you, right? If you do it right, if they believe that you're interested, in actually getting the answers, right? That's also why a lot of people, especially, senior executives and board members, will take informational interviews with people they don't know, because it's just damn flattering. They don't know who you are. You could be, well, I don't know about your situation, but generally, when the way you set this up is they don't know who you are, right? So you could be the press, you could be a potential business partner, you could potentially be, another player in the industry. They have no idea, right? This works really well for executives, by the way, because executives, part of their job is to field unsolicited queries from the public. Whereas a middle manager, that's not part of their job, or people lower down, like they can't help you. The people at the middle, it's not their job to help you, and they're very busy anyway. But people at the top, it's part of their job to respond to public queries, right? You never know who this person could be. It could be a potential business partner that you're going to end up doing a joint venture with, for all they know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's usually a bad idea to say, what? No, how did you get this number? Kind of thing. They will entertain it, assuming you presented yourself professionally and you didn't give off any red flags, so you go down there and you ask for their expert opinion on their industry, the way forward, what are the challenges, and in my experience, they talk and they open up, and you learn so much, right? Now, the thing is, LB, if you're doing an informational interview, if you're doing what you literally kind of were talking about a moment ago, where you're not trying to persuade them to hire you, okay, because they've said, we're not hiring. Go down there, and I challenge you, this is going to sound totally weird, but I challenge you not to bring a resume with you, and don't mention anything related to a job, okay? And what will this get you? Well, this will get you a situation where they're disarmed. They have no problem with speaking with you because they don't believe you're there to try and get something from them, right? The only reason this person is agreeing to talk with you is because they believe you're not trying to get something from them. They can answer questions, but if you're pushing for a job, the answer is no, right? Right now, you might be asking yourself, what's the purpose of this then? Doing an informational interview where I don't put myself forward and don't ask for a job, and I don't mention jobs. And even if they said, give me your resume, you say, oh, okay, sorry, well, I don't have one with me, right? That signals you're not trying to get anything out of them. This is not some ulterior motive to get hired. You want to know what they think of this. You want to understand, how they do their job. What are the changes coming down? Where this industry is going? Stuff that can really help you. You want to get that information, and that's where people want to talk to you, right? And then the idea is you could do the variant of the sort of delayed ask thing where you come back to them a week or 2 weeks later and you say something to the effect of, listen, I've been thinking about the things you told me. I thought some of that stuff was really interesting, and I thought about it. And I just want you to know that if ever there's an opportunity for me to be able to help you guys out in this capacity, let me know, because that was actually really interesting, and I wouldn't mind being a part of that going forward, and you leave it at that, right? And that's a way to get the whole asking for a job thing in there into the process, but have them still open, have them still wanting to help you, wanting to work with you, wanting to communicate with you, that kind of stuff, because it's just done above board. Okay, LB says, I messaged a director level at this company saying I wanted to just chat to people. That's where a lot of people fail. They don't have the courage to do it. They don't know how to do it. So you're actually trying things. Congratulations. It's all good, okay? Now, what I would impress upon you is You know how you apply for jobs, right? You don't just send out one application, right? You apply for many jobs, right? Well, this is exactly the same situation. You don't just talk to one person and like, oh, it didn't work out, so I gave up. It's like, no. Just like if you applied for one job, you sent out one application and it doesn't work out. You don't say, oh, I guess that method doesn't work, so I'll stop. It's like, no, you keep going. Just like you send out hundreds of applications, you reach out to hundreds of people, okay? Just like you're doing. And each time you tune it a little bit better, okay? When you're starting out, you fix the bugs from the last time and you get this down. It's actually not that hard. It's actually, there's only like maybe 10 principles going on here. I don't know. But then you can keep going. And the idea of, if you're using tools like LinkedIn to discover people all the time, there are thousands of people in your hometown that are in a position to help you, okay? So there's a lot of people out there that you can reach out to like this, okay? You send messages to them. You say, I'd very much like to speak with you and get your expert opinion. A lot of people don't respond, but some people do, right? Okay, watch that video where I walk you through this process. Okay, it's called How Successful People Get Jobs. It's a bit dry of a video, but it basically explains this whole thing. So check that out and keep going. I congratulate you. You're starting down this path, and a lot of professionals, they end up learning this towards the end of their career. That's how they get jobs, towards the end of their career. You could be 21 years old and do this and go places really fast. It's just that the vast majority of 21-year-olds were never exposed to this, right? That's why we don't see more of them doing it. Vegas Strong says, wow, references has been really difficult with no family and can't use children or ex-husband and have no friends. What should I do? Okay, so you can't use your family and you have no friends and you don't have any coworkers? That's kind of tough. You kind of need to know people to have references. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't use your children. Okay, you could use your ex-husband, but you probably wouldn't want to, just by the fact that they're your ex. So yeah, you kind of need other people in there, you know? Listen, you can use personal references. Have you had friends before in your life? In your hometown? Maybe you've moved away from your hometown, right? Now, okay, you don't have friends or associates in the new location that you've just arrived in, okay? You move to a new city or a new country, you don't know anyone there. Okay, fair enough. Do you at least have people back in your hometown? People you went to school with? Maybe instructors who taught you in school. Those are good. They can verify you were in their class, even if they don't remember you. You passed their class, and they're a person that, using them as a reference carries weight because they are an instructor. They are trusted in a position of somewhat of authority, so their reference carries weight, and the employer can also verify who the instructor is, right? Because to a degree, they're a public figure, right? So those would be starting points, Vegas Strong. Okay, LB says, that makes a lot of sense. I think I did show my hand that I was aiming to get into his company. Thank you so much for your... LB, don't worry about it. Listen, you're doing fine. Keep going, okay? Now, if you want to learn more with me properly, okay, I have all the stuff in that course. No pressure, but that's where I put it. It's very hard to talk about this stuff because it requires, all these principles are all stacked on top of each other. They all apply at the same time. And if you are ignorant of one, it's the weak link in the chain, the whole thing breaks, right? So it's very hard to talk about. It's hard for me to talk about little 5-minute snips of this stuff. You have to do it in a big monolithic kind of thing for it to make any sense. So that's why I put it into a course. So check that out if you want to go deeper with me. Check out that video I did called How Successful People Get Jobs. It's linked in the description box under this live stream. I do have a playlist on my YouTube channel that I did years ago. It talks about some stuff. It's called Tapping the Hidden Job Market. If you go to my YouTube channel, like my actual page, The Company's Expert, it's one of the playlists that's right in your face when you get there. So you can check that out too if you want to learn about that. But best of luck. Guy Incognito says, I have long-term unemployment but university degree, so too qualified for supermarket but no experience for tech jobs. What should I do? Guy Incognito, first of all, you need to know this, okay? There's nothing wrong with you. You got a university degree. That's good, okay? Now, there are university degrees and university degrees. Some, quite frankly, are Mickey Mouse, borderline useless. Others are pretty damn hard to get. You have to be damn sharp to get those. And, be very hardworking. Odds are is that you've got something in the middle. It's useful. It's good, right? It does not make you unemployable. Okay? It doesn't. The way you might be receiving the message that you're unemployable is, like, I don't know you. I don't know what situation you're in, but if I had to guess, I would say it's because you're only applying to posted jobs, right? And you're having to go deal with recruiters and go through official hiring processes at large organizations, okay? Most people aren't hired that way. It's the default method for young people when they come out of school because they don't know any better. They don't know any other method, which is criminal, to be honest with you. They should be taught how things work, but they're not. But this is a problem when you get hired through that method and you try to get hired through that method. They have some pretty damn weird requirements, things that are basically incorrect, Like, listen, we all know this. We all know that the way you are judged or assessed by recruiters is not a real judgment and not the way people should be really assessed. It doesn't really reveal accurate results, You know what I'm saying? Now, I understand why they look at people that way. There are reasons why they do it. But, it's not some kind of, what's the words? It's not some kind of objective way of assessing somebody's value. It's something that, they can't look at you properly. Like when you look at someone, you don't know who they are. They could be an axe murderer. They could be your new best friend. You have no way of knowing. It takes effort to get to know them, and they don't want to spend the effort. So they're relying on like some weird type of heuristics where they're sort of making judgments about you based on superficialities, right? Like what we were just talking about a moment ago. You have a university degree. They would make a value judgment saying that, because you have a university degree, you have a higher likelihood of being a good employee, right? Now, maybe you could justify that statistically and say, like, okay, on average, people that have university degrees have a higher likelihood of working out when they take a job. But you're still not assessing the person. This person could be the wild exception to that. You know what I mean? Here's a person who's got a PhD and they're an axe murderer. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. So they're not actually assessing you. They're just basing snap judgments on you based on stereotypes that a lot of times these are wildly inaccurate when they're applied to you, right? So that's why their method of judging candidates is far from perfect. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And the problem is that if you're only pursuing this way of getting hired and that's all you're really paying attention to, you start to believe these silly criteria, You know what I mean? You start to think, oh, I have no value because I don't have this or something. It's like, no, you do. And they are hiring people like you, just that they're going about it through different vectors, So instead of sending in an application. Instead, you would go and try and talk to this person or whatever. And, once you do that, you realize they invite you right in, You know what I'm saying? So learn about how to get a job. Learn about like all the different methods and how it works. Okay, now earlier in this stream, I did this. I was like doing this just for the sheer hell of it. This is like the very beginnings of learning about how hiring really works. Okay, what is the percentage of jobs that are posted publicly online, right? You would think that most of them are posted, right? No, only about 20% are posted, right? The rest are in this, something called the hidden job market. They're out there. Okay, so 70 to 80% of all jobs are in the hidden market, right? How do you get those? That is misleading because that makes you think that you can't get them. Absolutely not. This is big. You can get it. And if you're an introvert like me, you can do it all online. It's actually quite simple. Okay, this is misleading because a very small amount of it happened. Recruiters are generally not involved with anything in the hidden job market. It's a tiny minority of things that are hidden that recruiters still are involved with. Social media, yes. And direct outreach, yes. Now you could do direct outreach today, and you could drum up all kinds of opportunities for yourself, right? If you want to know what that looks like, okay, watch the video that I have linked in the description box below this live stream. Okay, it's called How Successful People Get Jobs. It's not the world's greatest video. It's kind of dry and boring, but it shows you what you can do that's out there. You don't need recruiters. You don't need, job boards online. You don't need job postings. Okay, you can just get hired by connecting with the people that would hire you. Okay, so look at how that works. And there's a lot more beyond what you see in that video. That just gives you an idea of like the types of things you can do, right? You don't have to talk to a single person in person or on the phone. And you don't have to know anyone either. The whole point is that you're reaching out to employers. You don't know these people. But if you understand who to talk to, what to say, and how to act professionally, you can create a lot of opportunities. So don't let the recruiters make you feel like, you have no value or you're not hireable or anything, because you are. You got a university degree. That shows right off the bat, like you have some capabilities, right? It's a good thing. Anyway, where do we leave off here? Okay, so that was Guy Incognito, I believe. Okay. Sophia says, hello, I see recently the resume get too charge of information and tasks you did in person. Why? No idea what you're saying, Sophia. If you could please rephrase that with somewhat correct grammar, I might be able to understand what you're asking. Vegas Strong says, I know people, but so much peanut butter and jealousy. Okay. Vegas is different, plus the world has moved here very bad. Okay. So I guess you should just kill yourself. Is that what you're saying? Like, I mean, I don't mean that literally, but the problem is like, if somebody says what to do, and then I say, well, think of this, and then you say, well, I can't do that. It's like, well, okay. I hope you're not just dismissing things without actually having tried it. Because if you're going to do that, then it might be a lot harder to get yourself out of a slump. Vegas says, sad to say, but I had to resign position in the Mayo Clinic. Surgical services due to inflation and maintain mortgages in Vegas haven't been able to get back. Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That makes it more urgent, and there's a dire need for you to figure this out. Okay? Listen, all I can say is I've got some resources on my channel. Okay, I've linked some of them below. That's a good. I feel that's a good starting point for a lot of people. The first video is called Hidden Job Market. The second video is called How Successful People Get Jobs. Go watch those videos. That would be a great start. Now, if you want to go deeper with me, if you want to learn, if you want me to take you by the hand and guide you down this thing, okay, check out that course. That's where I put that stuff. It's like step by step. Okay, how to get hired in the post job market and how to get hired in the hidden job market, that's where the great opportunities are. That's where the action really is. You know, and it's geared towards introverts, people that don't know anybody, people that don't particularly enjoy talking to other people, either on the phone or in person. It's geared towards that. Okay. So if that's what you're looking for, that's what I have here. Okay. But before that, go and check out some of the 3 free videos I have where I talk about this stuff. If you're not satisfied with the posted job market, which is the thing that everyone sees, and it's the default thing for everyone, but the constant theme is that it doesn't really work for people. Yeah, because it's far from perfect. I would not recommend people really pursue that very hard, the posted job market. And as we go into the future, it's getting worse and worse with the rise of fake jobs and things like this, you know, with AI-driven ATS systems and things like this. It's just serving to push people outside of that, you know, official system, the hiring system. Hello to Franco. Hello to Soumarin. Soumarin says, I have a short question for you. It does not matter a lot. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm just joking. I've had an interview last week and did not get the job. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. They told me it was because I had no experience in the specific field. And let me guess, you have experience, but they said that and it's completely out to lunch and you don't know where to begin to respond, right? Because it's so ludicrous. And it would be very time expensive for them to teach me the basics, okay? Yeah, that's not something you say to people, you know, if you're professional. It's like that line, I don't think that's something a dude should say to another dude, you know. It's like that's not something a recruiter or hiring manager should say to a candidate. It just isn't. It's unprofessional, you know. It really signals who you're dealing with. It was not in my native language. Okay. But I'm like, when you're getting a job interview, you're already supposed to have the basic requirement, don't you? Okay, so you're talking about like the language thing? Or you're talking about the job experience or the ability to do the job? Yeah, listen, Sumane, they like you know what I said a moment ago, that you don't say that to people, it's unprofessional. You're obviously not dealing with a bunch of rocket scientists here. This isn't brain rocketry. You know, even if that was the real reason and they honestly think that, you don't say that. It's completely unprofessional. These people are so used to just acting whichever way they want and nobody's calling them on it because, you know, everybody is going on their knees begging them for a job. So they're not calling them on their unprofessionalism and quite frankly, their rudeness. So, you know what I mean? That gives you an idea who you're dealing with. It gives me an idea who you're dealing with, right? Okay. Listen, Sumane, you tried something, it just didn't work out. Hey, that's how it goes. That's par for the course in job search. It's the sales process. You know, you have a single-digit percentage chance of any opportunity or any lead working out. And this didn't work out. Oh, well. Don't let what these people told you, don't let their ignorance convince you that like you're not valuable or something. Because you are, you know? And that will be evidenced when you do get a job and they think you're awesome. You know what I mean? Okay. So don't sweat it. You're doing fine. You know, just do your best. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like most leads are not going to work out until you find something that does. That's just the nature of it, you know? And don't like sort of let every little comment they make in their ignorance convince you that, you know, you have no value. Franco says, any advice on juggling offers/interviews? I know you've made a video about this in the past, but it was not clear to me the best course of action. What do you mean juggling offers or interviews? Like you've got offers and then you've also got other interviews lined up? Is that what you mean? Listen, the general idea is that you want as many offers as possible, you know? You want different people to offer you a job. That's a problem people look forward to, you know? The more options you have, the more power you have negotiating, and the more options you have to decide which way you want to go, you know? If you get an offer, don't just cancel all your upcoming interviews if that's also what you're asking. Go to them. You put in the time to obtain these interviews, these leads, see them through. Once you go there, don't just throw them away by taking offense to some little thing somebody said, and then you say, okay, this interview is over, I withdraw my application. Don't do that. It's pointless. You invested all this effort to get this option. Pursue it to the end, see if they'll give you an offer, even if you've got another offer in your hand. Don't tell them that. These are all independent pursuits, right? They are not dependent on each other. Okay, so pursue them all independently. And Franco, you will generally get further with people if you're asking for help, if you don't then say that, something you didn't work for me. You know what I'm saying? Can you please answer me this? Because the thing that you did, that didn't work for me. You're combining a couple of things that add up to most people not wanting to grant your request. Sumane Nuclear says, but I'm like, when you're getting a job interview, you've already supposed to be okay, we talked about that. You're welcome, Sumane. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I don't know if it was, but Vegas says, I will check your course. Okay, listen, no pressure. It depends on what you're looking for, okay, and what you're open to. So I'm not trying to pressure people to take my course, or any of my courses. I got 3 courses. I don't do one-on-one consultation with people. That's just not what I do. Instead, I have courses. They're a much greater bang for the buck. For the price of having a 1-hour session with a career coach or whatever it is, you get an entire course, which is many hours of stuff, lots of information. It's just much better bang for the buck. And if that's the kind of thing you're looking for, great. If not, don't sweat it. Franco says, I've received a formal offer for, let's say, $1,000, but at the same time, I've started another process for a job that pays $2,000. Should I accept the first offer? And if the second comes in, what do I do? It's very simple, Franco. If you've got an offer in your hand right now and nothing else right now, take it. Just take it. These other leads may not work out. In fact, it's more probable that they won't work out. So take what you have in your hand, right? Start the process with them. Start negotiating, okay? If you want to go that route or not, just take it. Set a start date, right? And then totally independently of that, okay, of all of that, over here, you've got other interviews lined up, right? I don't think you have any other offers, but you have, you've started the process for another job. So you're in process for another. Keep pursuing that process. I don't care if you start your next job, keep doing this process. If that comes to fruition and they make you an offer, you then can demand even more money if you want to. And if they give it to you, say they give you $3,000 because you pushed them up, because you were in a position where you could do that, then you take that job. You know what I'm saying? What you would do ideally is you go back to your first employer, the one that you've just taken the job for $1,000, and you say to them, listen, I appreciate you taking a chance on me. That really means a lot, and I'm enjoying working here, and I would love to continue working here. Just so you know, I've also received an offer from another employer for $3,000. Now, can you match it? Now, if they can, great. Then you've just boosted your pay, your compensation. If they can't, then you take the offer for $3,000, right? And you still win. You know what I mean? So these are all independent things, right? Just because you do one doesn't mean that you have to cancel all the others, right? If you've already got them in motion, ride them out, see where they lead. If they don't lead anywhere, oh well. If they do lead somewhere, now you've got other options, right? And you will come out on top if you do that. And I don't want to hear the argument from anybody that, oh, well, that's hard. It's extra work. It's yeah, you know what? Getting a job is extra work. You know what I mean? But when somebody offers you a job, it's worth maybe an hour of your time, 2 hours of your time. to just deal with them. And then you get a whole like extra option that gives you security. It gives you negotiating power. It gives you other options for where you want to go in life. You know, it's worth it, I would think. Everyone can make their own decision, but the way I look at it, I think that's worth pursuing for 2 hours of your time. Michael Long says, hi, I just joined the live stream. Can you explain the hidden job market? Yeah, it's called get on ChatGPT and ask it, what is the hidden job market? Okay, now I'm doing this because I'm trying to encourage you to do this yourself. What is the hidden job market? Okay, let's see. Refers to all opportunities that are not advertised publicly. So jobs that exist, but they don't have a job posting out of it, out in the real world where you can easily discover it, right? So what does that look like? It means that they don't have a job posting on the internet. It also means they don't have a help wanted sign in their window, right? It's not discoverable to the public, right? The job most likely only exists in the mind of the hiring manager. The hiring manager is a manager who runs an operation, right? They might run a team or a function, right? And they have come to the conclusion that they need to hire somebody, right? I really need to hire someone. I need an extra person that can do this. We have too much work. We have not enough people. I can't run the place on overtime anymore. I need to hire someone, right? Now, the problem is a manager doesn't work in HR. A manager is running an actual thing, right? A part of a organization or the entire organization, right? They're running a business unit. And hiring people is not their core competency. They've got their own work to do, right? So this is a chore. This is a problem for them. They don't want to spend money on it. So imagine if you came along and contacted that person and said, hey, just so you know, okay, let's do this. Just so you know, hello, this is who I am. This is what I can do for you. This is the problem I solve. If ever you're looking for someone to do that for you, let me know because I'd love to work for you. I live close by, you know, I'm fully qualified, you know, and I know about your company. You guys do great work in this area. Let me know if you ever need some help, right? Okay, now imagine if that message landed in their inbox or whatever, or landed right in their lap at that moment. The hiring manager is thinking, hey, this is good because if this person works out, that means I don't have to worry about creating a job posting. I don't have to worry about sitting in round after round of job interview with all kinds of candidates, right? I don't have to work with a recruiter and help them to write the job description and think through all the requirements and, and all this kind of stuff. If I'm doing it myself, it means I don't have to worry about reference checking and all this kind of stuff, right? We can just do this really quickly and get on with our lives, right? And that's good for me. So that's the idea behind the hidden job market. The job exists. It's not posted publicly, but it's there and you can get it. You don't need any kind of special access or anything, okay? It's just that you go about pursuing those opportunities with a different method. Does that make sense? That's what it is. Now, I encourage you, get on, the very first and most basic thing you can do is get on things like Google and ChatGPT and learn about this stuff, okay? And I highly encourage you and everyone else, if you're not pursuing leads outside of posted jobs, you need to get on the bandwagon and do this, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. Okay, that was Michael Long. So that's a great question, Michael. Hopefully that helped. Franco, should I mention to company A that I've received another offer, or I just say, hey, I need this amount, can you do it? Seems weird considering I just signed a contract with them for less than a week ago. Okay, here's the deal, Franco. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, okay? You're under no obligations to these people. You have an agreement with them saying that if they pay you a certain amount, you will do certain things for them, okay? Now, either of you can end it at any moment. That's how that works, okay? The way I would do it, this is what I would do. I would come back to them. And what I would do is I would do this face to face with my immediate boss. Usually that's the person that kind of hired you. Like that was the hiring manager that selected you, okay? Your boss. I would do it face to face. I would do it in private, and I would do it at a time when they're not like stressed out. They're not, super busy. The time I always shoot for, all things being equal, is immediately after lunch on a Friday, okay? The weekend is coming. People are relaxed. There's less stress. They've just had their lunch. They've just had some food. They feel good. They're their most patient. They're their most accommodating at that moment, right? You knock on their door. You say, hey, you got a couple of minutes? I'd very much like to speak with you. And they'll probably say, sure. And if they don't say sure, okay, you don't do it then. And what you do is you say, listen. You start off by being appreciative. You say, listen, thank you for employing me. I've been here like a week or whatever it's been, a month. It's been going really well as far as I'm concerned. I appreciate you guys taking a chance on me, and I am really hoping that this continues for a very long time. Now, just to keep you in the loop, okay, I've just received an offer from another company for this amount. Okay, and I would be honest about the amount, okay, whatever it is. And I just want to say, I want you to know that I do appreciate working here, and I'd very much like to continue working here. But as you can appreciate, I do have to follow the money. Now, you see this offer I got, can you match it? That's what I would say, right? I would not disclose the employer that's made me this offer. I would not give any identifying information, because it has been known that, people can sabotage job offers. For example, your boss, in theory, could call up that company that's made you the offer and say, hey, listen, I understand you're looking to hire this individual. It would be remiss of me not to disclose what I know about them. And that is that they drink on the job, they're a psychopath, they're a kleptomaniac, they're untrustworthy, and we've had some issues with them with violence in the workplace. So, I couldn't sit by in all good conscience and not disclose that, and and risk that you guys don't understand who you're trying to recruit. So, and then sometimes the person will believe them, and then all of a sudden your offer is rescinded, right? So don't give identifying information for the company, or don't mention the individual you're working with or anything like that, okay? But mention the amount, mention the compensation, and say, can you match it? It's the professional thing to do. It's the courteous thing to do, to give them the opportunity to match it. Now, if they can't, okay, first of all, you only do this when the job offer is firm, right? Okay. Because if they can match it, then it's less risky for you. You're already started with this place. You already like them. It wasn't a fake job. It wasn't fraud. It wasn't something that didn't work out. You're there. You're happy. Why not just have them pay you more? Okay, so that's how I would do it. I'm making several assumptions about your situation. I don't know if they're true, but that's how I would act in that situation. Franco says, should I mention to company A that I've received another offer to say, hey, this amount? Okay, we talked about that. Okay, you're welcome, Frank. Nicole says, hi. When interviewing for coordinator jobs, I've had challenges explaining my data management experience. I have 2 years experience in similar roles, though I feel I don't know what else they are looking for. Ideas? Well, look, in terms of giving people what they want, you really don't know what's going on in their head. The only way to know what they're actually looking for is, there's a couple of things. First of all, you look at what they've disclosed. That's the requirement section in the job posting. They said, we're looking for someone who's got this, right? So it's like, okay, now you speak to those. It's not about what you can bring to it. It's about what are they looking for, and do you have it, right? So they've already said, we're looking for this, right? So you speak to that stuff. Then there's another sort of category of things that they're looking for that are implied. They are not explicitly spelled out, but they're things that it's a pretty safe bet that they're looking for. Someone who's reliable, someone who's punctual, someone who's got a good work ethic, someone who's got a great attitude, somebody who is passionate about the role, somebody that gets along well with other people, somebody who can work together with people, someone who's a strong communicator, right? These are all things that they probably didn't spell out, but in like 99% of all jobs, they're looking for those, right? They're pretty universal. So you would give those too. Now, there's a third category of things that they're looking for. They're things that they haven't disclosed, but they're weird stuff. They're things that you really can't guess. So it's known only to them. Like, for example, they are really wanting someone who, you know, they regard emotional intelligence as much more of a desirable thing than, say, technical skills. Okay? Like, you can't guess that. I mean, that would be some weird thing that, you know, these people have. They care about people that have a background in sales. Even though this job is to do with statistical analysis or something, for some reason, the hiring manager believes that people with a sales background are those are the types of people we need here, right? Just some irrational thing, some opinion that somebody has, right? You can't predict that, okay? So all you can do is you can show up, you can speak to what they've said they're looking for, and you can speak to universal good traits and show how you have those. And that's all you can do, right? The rest is, it's not possible for you to predict, okay? And those are some of the things that lead to the outcome being more dependent on random chance than anything deterministic that you do. Okay? So all you can do in practice is just speak to the things that they require, speak to universal things, and that's it. And just see where it falls. Okay? Don't beat yourself up over like, you know, they rejected me for some specific reason. Yeah. Like I said in a popular video I did years ago, I saw people who rejected candidates because they were fans of the wrong sports team. A hiring manager eliminated people based on that element. That's one of the things they looked at. The reasoning this person had was that they're like a rabid fan of one sports team, and if they have to work every day with someone who is a fan of the opposing team, the big rival team, that's going to be a problem for them personally. You know what I mean? So they said, I don't want to work with anyone that really is into this, because that just on a personal level, it's going to create some friction. I don't want that. So it's stupid, right? But, you know, that's some of the things that are happening. Imagine if you just happen to be a fan of the right team for that person. Like, you know, they'll look over a bunch of deficiencies and hire you for that. You know, like it works both ways, right? The point is that there's a limit to what you can do. Take your best shot and then focus on pursuing even more leads. And it's a numbers game. Okay? And you don't worry. You play this game, you're going to win. It just might take a little bit of time. Okay, where did this leave off here? That was Nicole, I believe. Yes. Okay, and I can't predict what specific things they're going to be looking for in a data management role. I mean, one could make a guess, but that's neither here nor there. You know what I mean? You know, like, look, here's something you could do, right? I was just sort of getting on my high horse a moment ago and telling somebody, you know, get on ChatGPT and learn. Okay, give me the 10 most prominent requirements of a... Sorry, my screen went off there. I'm just trying to do this here. Give me the 10 most prominent requirements of, what was it? Data management, coordinator job. Like, well, I don't even know what industry you're in. Coordinator job for data management experience. Okay, I don't know. Data management coordinator. You know, right? You know, like do something like this. I mean, this can be a starting point, right? Okay, so here you go. data entry and accuracy, proven experience entering, cleaning, and maintaining accurate databases, experience with systems like SQL, Salesforce, etc., organizational skills, proficiency in Excel, specifically some of these functions, knowledge of data privacy and compliance, communication skills, strong written and verbal communication skills in documentation and reporting, project coordination, solving problems, analytical thinking, etc., etc. Okay, so you can do this kind of thing with AI tools like ChatGPT. That can also be a starting point to ask it very specific questions about specific jobs, and see what it says, right? That would be a starting point. Okay, so hopefully that kind of thing is helpful. Franco says, and also thanks for your videos and advice. I was able to get this first offer in the first place, so thank you so much. You're absolutely welcome, Franco. Listen, I appreciate it, but you are the hero here, okay? You're the one that's doing it, and they're hiring you based on you. You're obviously a very valuable, very employable person, and they're starting to see that, or at least these people are seeing it. And if they can see it, many more people are going to see it too. Okay, so way to go. And I didn't come up with any of these techniques. These are not like mine. I'm just sharing them with the world. And the way I see it is with a lot of younger people who were never introduced to this stuff when they were young. They should have been. It's a real failing of the educational system as far as I'm concerned. This stuff should be taught to people in like grade 12, when they're 18, in my opinion. Basic networking, how to make things happen, how to learn any piece of information out there, no matter how idiosyncratic, it exists in the head of somebody out there. Go and connect with that person, discover them, connect with them, talk to them, get that information. That's what makes you formidable. You want to learn something? You want to learn something that only certain people know? Find the people, learn that skill, okay? Then learn how to communicate with them, right? And get that information. Learn what makes them want to talk to you, right? These are real powerful life skills, okay? They open all kinds of doors for you. This is what I'm encouraging people to try and do, because job search is essentially like when the real world hits you like a slap in the face. And some people come into this game with a very entitled kind of attitude that like, oh, I know how to do this, therefore I should be given a job doing it. And if I'm not just immediately given a job doing this, then the world is unfair, and, I'm angry. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? You don't behave that way to other people, Someone on the street doesn't say, oh, I see you have an apartment or a house or whatever, Well, I'd like to come in. I've been in houses before. I know that you have to behave properly, and I know how to do that. So I should be allowed to come into your house if I want to. And it's like, obviously not, that's not how it works. I have to want to invite you in. I have to have a need for you to come in. Jobs are the same way. Employment is the same way, Anyway, I could go on a rant, but people are not being taught this, and you can shield yourself from it right up until school's over, and then it hits you like a slap in the face. If you want to make things happen, why are they not just given to you? You have to do certain things. You have to show certain things to other people and make them want to work with you. Now if you have no idea how to approach anyone, you have no idea what to say to them, you have no idea who to approach, these are going to be major issues. It's really not rocket science. Anybody can learn it. I don't care how introverted you are. You can do this. If you're capable of getting on Facebook and posting in a public group, you can do this. The problem is that a lot of people don't have a respect for this whole topic, and therefore they don't have the patience to learn it. They don't want to learn it because it's not on their radar. They don't consider it important. That's what I've been finding for like over 10 years when I've been teaching this one way or another. Where are we here? You're welcome, Nicole. Nicole says career development coordinator. Okay, so yeah. So enter that in. say, for colleges, I'm a career development coordinator or whatever, now to get that role, what would I have to demonstrate? Give me 10 of the top things or whatever. Just don't even give a number. Just say, what are the things I would have to demonstrate that, it's reasonable they could be looking for? What do I have to show? And how can I show it? Like things like this. Go deep. Ask it all kinds of probing questions. Bogdan says, really so. Okay, good. That's good. Bogdan says, I love these streams. Yeah, when I get upset and I go on a rant about, what other people are doing wrong. Well, thank you. I'm glad somebody's into that. I feel like, I don't know. It's not a good feeling sometimes. LB says, would you recommend doing interviews for contracts if what you really want is full-time? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I get a lot of third-party recruiter messages to apply for some Okay, I don't know about that. I wouldn't necessarily go through recruiters. I'm very biased against recruiters because of the things that they're doing out in the world. These leads usually don't pan out. It doesn't mean that they never do. It just means that the odds are it's not going to go anywhere. And, there's a lot more promising things you can do, right? Now, I would absolutely pursue part-time work, contract work, gig work, all of that, because those can very easily turn into full-time, very rewarding opportunities, right? You go. It's a standard practice for people to sort of have some kind of probation before they just offer someone the keys to the kingdom. Here's a full-time, permanent, good job where we have to trust you. We're going to put you in charge of something important to us. And we don't want that trust betrayed, right? See, that's earned. It's very hard to give that to a stranger, So what you do is you have some way of vetting the person, of them earning into that position, right? Now, one way to do it is like a contract position where at any moment they can let you go. Like, you're not technically working for them. You're an independent contractor. They can terminate the arrangement at any moment, right? But they want to see. They want to see what you're made of. How is it working with you? Do you deliver on expectations? Are you easy to deal with? Do you go above and beyond? Things like this. And if they have a need for a full-time permanent person that's doing important work, the primary candidates for getting that role are people that have already proved themselves with smaller things. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way that an organization would do this to really limit their risk, but yet get someone good, to maximize the chances of getting someone good, right? That's how you do it. You don't just hire some random stranger that can talk a good game in one interview. You know what I mean? Right? That's the way this stuff works. So definitely, yeah, apply for everything, including things that in themselves might not really meet your goals, but they can turn into more promising things later on. They're a gateway in. And in the absence of any job or whatever at the moment, the added benefit is that they also provide an income stream right now, while you're doing your job search for something more permanent, right? Yes. Bogdan says, is also the mode of doing, which is something unsaid, just learned by work with them. Rael after Lacan. What? Is also the mode of doing, which is something unsaid, just learned by work with them. I don't fully understand. If you could repeat that. If you could rephrase that, please, Bogdan. It sounds like something I'd want to get into, but if you could rephrase it, I'm just having a problem with the grammar. Nicole says, do you offer short-term or single-session coaching services? No, I don't. However, on Monday, I do a stream with another YouTuber. She is a professional recruiter. She does offer coaching sessions and things like that, mock interviews where she gives you her opinion, like based on being a recruiter, things you can work on, things that you should or shouldn't do, stuff like that. She offers that stuff. So you could get that with her. She's pretty good. We're going to do a joint stream on Monday, around about this time on Monday. You could do a lot worse. But no, I don't provide that. I do courses instead. It just like I do consulting, but I consult for businesses. So I don't consult with individuals, unfortunately. I'm specifically looking for identification of roles my skills and experience would be a good match for. I have an eclectic background. Or should I just use ChatGPT as recommended? Thanks again. Your experience is really helpful. Listen, ChatGPT is an amazing tool. It is just a tool. It's not the be all end all, but it's a damn useful tool. You can explore all kinds of things with things like ChatGPT, not just theory, but you could then actually go into ChatGPT and say we're talking about networking. Okay. Now you could ask ChatGPT, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do this together. Okay. Very briefly. Okay. Okay, I am located in the city of Winnipeg in Canada. Okay, that's not important, but just as an example. Okay, how does one get a job through networking events? I don't know. So you're asking it a question about theory. How do I do this? How does this work? Okay, so you do that. It tells you this is how you get a job through networking events, right? So you go to an event. Maybe there's a trade show in your hometown where everybody from a certain industry is going to be there. You could be employed by that industry. You could work in it, or maybe you do, right? Okay. So here's the theory. But then you can go one step deeper. Now, not many people know about this and say, okay, I'm in Winnipeg, Canada. Okay. Are there any upcoming industry events in my hometown in the next quarter? I don't know. And what do you do? What were we talking about here? I want to use an example that's related to you if I possibly can. What did you say? You just said I'm looking for general skills. This was Nicole. Okay. Coordinator for colleges. Okay, so education. There's a good one. In the education industry. Okay, so now it's actually giving you specific data for your thing in your hometown. Okay, now I don't know how complete or accurate this is, but it's at least a starting point. Okay, so here you go. Here's a conference coming up. That's already occurred. Okay, now hold on. Let's correct this. No, not events in the past. Upcoming events. Okay, something like this. Right, now let's see what it can come up with. Let's say I wanted to go to an event and I wanted to connect with people that could hire me. Okay, so here we go. July 17th to 18th. That's pretty good. That's in a couple of days. It's at this university. That's what it is. Here's another one in September. School of Business is doing something there. Blah 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 blah. Here, industry events. Right. So my point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that not only can you learn theory with this thing, okay, but you can then directly tie it to what's going on in your hometown. What companies are looking, what companies are expanding. What times of the year are different industries hiring for different types of roles. You know what I mean? It's connected to the real world and can give you specific data, not just theory behind a general topic. Okay. So this is a very useful tool. There's other tools like it. Okay. Start with this by learning stuff. Okay. Sure. You can come back and listen to my live streams. I do appreciate it, but use these tools also. They can really help you learning about how things work. Okay. It's not 100% accurate all the time. It does things that it says things that I kind of disagree with. It's no, that's not really the best way, but it's better than nothing if you're trying to learn something. So you supplement that with your own experience trying things, and you can't lose, so I encourage people to do this. This is how you learn, right? Nicole says, or should I just use ChatGPT? Yes, that's what we're talking about. LB says, yeah, the 3P recruiter calls on LinkedIn are basically spam. I don't know what 3P is. Are you talking about 3 pence in the UK, like a threepenny bit. Yeah, I wouldn't deal with recruiters. That's just me. Simply because the odds are really bad that, of them working out. They're not going to work out. It's like 99.9% chance it's not going to lead anywhere. It's not that you shouldn't pursue it. It's just that there are much more promising things you could do. Bogdan says, LOL, I was really hoping for more from one. Okay. The mode of doing, which is something unsaid, learned for work. Okay. Bogdan, in French theory, there are things that cannot be said. They are the so-called real. Okay. Work experience and human relations are some of those things that learned intuitively or through working. Sure. Who am I to dispute stuff like that? However, I take a much more practical approach. Listen, we could debate the theory and we could debate what's actually going on till the cows come home. But as I think a lot of you guys know, recruitment and selection and job search is far from ideal. It's so far removed from an efficient, ideal case as you can get, pretty much, right? So I take a much more practical view of these things. Not taken away from anything you're saying. I'm just saying that that's not how I think. So, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't mean that how I think is better. But I've learned over the course of my career that it's not about what you deserve. It's not about being ideally suited for something. It's about what opportunities are available to you and, making the most educated guess you can under the circumstances when there's an extraordinary and staggering lack of data available. You just have to jump and have blind faith sometimes. You have this opportunity here, you have this opportunity here. You need to do something. Those are two options. What should you do? Should you take either, or should you hold out for creating a third option? That's what I found this game is more like. It's not based on what's the ideal place for you in the world. You know what I mean? Even if you could figure that out, in my humble opinion, discovering where that is very hard. You know what I mean? And being able to see accurately what these options are really going to be like, very hard. To me, I regard them as impossible, So, you know what I mean? I take much more of I don't know what you call this, but the way that statistics looks at things. Like, think of finance, for example. Instead of like trying to analyze deterministically what's going on with an investment, all they do is they reduce it to an expected value and a volatility, like a risk. They say chances are it's going to do this, and the odds of that happening are this. There you go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but that's kind of statistically what the odds are. And the idea is that if you do many of these, over time, your results will approach mathematically, what the odds are. Anyway. You're welcome, Bogdan. Hopefully that was useful. Anyway, we've been doing this for about an hour and 45 minutes. If anyone has any last questions, ask them now, because in about 30 seconds, I'm going to start to wind this down. Thank you for the people that have been here. You guys have been asking some really damn intelligent questions. If you want to go deeper with me, check out this course. That's how to get hired. How to get hired in the posted job market, and how to get hired in the hidden job market. That's where the real action is. That's where all the jobs are. And that's also where the good jobs are. If you want to improve yourself, you want to get promoted at your job, or you want to climb the ladder, or you want to be much more effective as an employee, check out this. My Write Like a Professional course. It is about writing, but it's mainly about communication. It's about above average communication skills, developing those. And usually that's one of the things you have to tack on if your plan is to climb the ladder. You want to, you're a worker, or you're at the professional level, you want to be in management, frontline, middle, or upper management, and beyond. These are all the things that I had to learn in terms of communication skills when going from a supervisor to a CEO, which was the journey that I went on. In terms of tacking on communication skills, I took everything and I put it into that course. There's other things you got to tack on too, like people management skills, financial skills, but I don't cover that in this course. These are just the communication skills. But if you want to learn that, check out that course. There's links in the description for all of these. And this is the least relevant of the three to what we've been talking about today. But if you want to learn business, business is the scientific study of how to make money. That's essentially what it is. Pretty damn useful thing to know if you want to make money. Check that out. That'll help you be a much more effective employee and make decisions that are more in line with what your employer wants. It's also great if you want to branch out and do the entrepreneurship thing, which I actually highly recommend to a lot of people. But, most people, if you're between jobs, that's not really where your head's at right now, and nor should it be. You got to take care of immediate concerns first. But if you're looking to learn business, check out that course, Best Bang for the Buck Anywhere. All of these links in the description. Okay, thanks everybody. We got some great questions today. I hope you all have a good weekend. If you are doing job search, here's my advice to you. This weekend, force yourself to do something fun. You got to take care of your mental health. That'll help you not only be more effective come next week to get back on the horse and do job search, but you will also get more longevity. You'll be able to do more of it. You'll be able to tolerate more of it. You got to take care of yourself. So try and do that for at least one day this weekend, preferably the whole weekend. And I will see you guys next week on Monday. Take care. Have a good weekend.